risky decision. We had no other choice. It was shortly that the bad news really started to come, as if our situation hadn't been bad enough yet. 2 days later, word made it back to our camp that our entire village had been set on fire. And then 4 days later, my uncle was returned to our camp, dazed, confused, and covered in blood. 2 of our neighbors had found him. He had been shot in the shoulder, and another bullet had grazed his head. He could barely remember what had happened. Luckily, a nurse was taking refuge in the garbage dump with us, and she tended to my uncle. He soon recovered, but still could not remember what had happened. My mom was obviously hysterical, since she wanted to know what had happened to Samia's death. The lack of answers added to her shock and hysteria. All my uncle could say was that they had been stopped by a group of paramilitaries. They tried to run, but he was shot. He could not remember what had happened to the others, to my brother and sister, or the other couple with them. Where were they? Were they okay? That night, and for many nights since, all we could ask ourselves is, where are they sleeping tonight? Are they cold? Is someone feeding them? As the rain kept drenching us that night, so our tears kept flowing. Over the next few weeks, months, and even years, we waited and waited as mass graves were found. We reported into authorities like so many others to see if we could identify their bodies by their clothing. Unfortunately, we were never successful. After 10 years, we have come to accept that they may never come back. We now grieve their loss, hoping that one day, we would at least receive their remains in order to give them a proper burial. In order for my family to know where their bodies are resting. I am very sad. I can't begin to explain to you what the past 10 years has meant for me and my family. These years have been filled with suffering and pain. We wished we could simply move on, but that's easier said than done. What a life we have been dealt. Lately, though, I have to admit that what has haunted me greatly is the expectation that I should somehow forgive rather than live with confusion, turmoil inside me. The question that I have often been asked since having been jointly nominated for 1,000 women across the globe are very similar. Surely, as a recognized woman of peace, you have not forgiven those who did this to your family. Can you forgive after 10 years of searching for your brother and sister and finding nothing? Or did you forgive? And why would you forgive? Somehow, after being recognized as a woman of peace, I was now expected to be an expert on forgiveness. And everyone assumed that I have forgiven the perpetrators for an act that took my brother and sister away from me and my family. How could I forgive? Could I not forgive? Was I not the young woman of peace who advocates for youth in conflict zones around the world? Sometimes, when people ask me whether or not I had forgiven those who took my brother and sister away from me, I felt inadequate. Like I had to reveal that I had some strange disease or something. I was embarrassed. Because truth be told, I was still grieving. I was not ready. My dear friends, forgiveness is not a word to be thrown around lightly. No, forgiveness is a process, and it takes time. Forgiveness is not absent one day and all of a sudden it appears the next. Forgiveness is a process, and it takes time. No one can force it upon you, and no one can make it happen for you. Over the past 10 years, I have also come to understand that true forgiveness is not conditional. In other words, you do not wait upon the perpetrators to give you something or to do something in exchange for forgiveness. Forgiveness is first for you, the forgiver. It releases you from something that will ultimately destroy you. My brother and sister have been missing for 10 years. 10 years, it's a long time. How and why should I forgive? Did I want to forget what happened and move on? Yes, I want to move on, but I didn't want to forget. Over the years, I came to realize that forgiveness was also not about forgetting. It was more about letting go, letting the bitterness and inner turmoil free. Did I want a relationship with a perpetrator? Was he or she supposed to become my friend if forgiven? No, I wasn't ready for that. That may come at some point, but first the truth would have to be spoken. The perpetrator's mind and behavior would have to change. Only then could a possible relationship of trust be established. I was ready to release the perpetrator from judgment, but only if true change in the perpetrator prevail. What I also came to understand was that the gift of forgiveness can only be given once you truly understand what happened. In my family case, my brother and sister have been missing for 10 years. We never found their bodies. We never found out who took them. We still don't know if they're dead or alive, although we have come to expect the worst. So you see, how can you forgive someone when you don't know what was done, by whom, and for what reason? How? As the famous Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh once said, you cannot force yourself to forgive. Only when you understand what has happened can you have compassion for the other person and forgive him or her. That kind of forgiveness is the fruit of awareness. When you are mindful, you can see the many causes that let the other person make you suffer. And when you see this, forgiveness and release arise naturally. As a young girl working for peace in war-torn Kosovo, brought me a lot of unexpected attention. The media fed my efforts like a mad pack of dogs. This only increased as I gained international attention with my advocacy work. Unfortunately, the media hurt me deeply. They were always the first to ask me about forgiveness, and they could not let go of this very difficult question. It was quite challenging when media kept asking me as a young girl, do you forgive the bad people for what they did? I remember my eyes always swelling up as I started to shed tears of pain. No, I would say. No. Somehow thinking that if I said yes, I would betray the memory of my missing siblings and my family. So they continued, but you have been working for peace and you're trying to unite Serbians and Albanians together. How can you do this without forgiveness? After spending hours, days, months, and even years thinking about this, I decided to consider what forgiveness meant to me. And I began to really challenge myself with the process. Indeed, I asked myself, how can I work for peace and at the same time not be able to forgive? After searching and searching to find the solution to my problem, I realized that I was already on my long journey to forgiveness. I have yet to reach my destination, but I'm moving forward in the process. There are many paths that lead to forgiveness. And everyone walks those paths at different pace until they eventually reach that same destination. What has been especially gratifying for me is my continuing work with the Eagle Dam Foundation and other partner agencies, is that there are many others who are taking this journey with me. The paths are not barren. They're filled with people walking alongside me. Step by step, hand in hand, we're walking similar trails. Last year, I had the privilege of participating in a peace and reconciliation mission in Kenya. During the post-election that gripped that country between December 2007 and February 2008, over 100 people lost their lives, and many others were left wounded. Many people I came across would be challenged by the same issues that I was dealing with. Why should we forgive those who caused us pain? What does it even mean to forgive someone? While traveling across Kenya, I met this older man whose son was killed in the violence. After spending some time talking to him, he shared his story, his pain, and his current journey. We had a lot in common as we shared similar trials and tribulations. During our formal presentation, after I told everyone my story, he stood up and said, "What happened to me was really bad, because no mother should have to say goodbye to her child. No sister should have to say goodbye to her brother. And no brother should have to say goodbye to his sisters. And why should I have to say goodbye to my own son under such a tragic circumstances?" It is interesting because I have been asking the God the same question. Why did I have to say goodbye to my sister and brother under such a tragic circumstances? Why? I never got the answer. I'm still waiting, and I'm going to continue to wait. He then pointed at me and said, "I'm very sorry, young lady, for what has happened to you and your family. But I'm honored and moved to see what you have accomplished. What happened to my son was very painful, and I'm very angry. But for the sake of my children and other people, I will start my journey from anger to forgiveness. And I will do what it takes to build peace and stability in my country, which is Kenya." My friends, the journey towards forgiveness is powerful. The ones who walk those paths have opened their hearts, renewed their strength, and promised themselves to make things better so no one has to ever relive their horrors. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to share my story with you today. In closing, I leave you with 6 key points that has helped me through my circumstances. First, forgiveness is a process, and it takes time. No one can force it upon you. No one can make it happen for you. 2, forgiveness is first for you, the forgiver. It releases you from something that will ultimately destroy you. 3, forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's more about letting go. 4, forgiveness is not about creating the relationship with the one who must be forgiven. 5, forgiveness can only be given once you understand what has happened. And 6, the journey to forgiveness is not the same for everyone. Everyone moves at different pace, and they take different paths until they eventually reach that same destination. Am I ready to forgive? Yes, but the process continues. I still don't know what happened to my brother and sister. Will I eventually reach my destination? When the time comes and everything is revealed, I believe I will be able to make peace within myself. For now, I have learned to live without the inner turmoil that once haunted me.